Hello, hello, beautiful stars. Hello, hello. I am Courtney, host of Stars of Morning Light. This is the fifth episode of our Sun series that will probably go on and on and on and on until the sun no longer exists, which will be never. Hello. So, beloveds, today, which normally I do my Sun series, so you all know Friday mornings, and this is Friday afternoon. I had a great deal of things to get to today, so I decided to do it later in the afternoon. So if you're listening to me while you're driving home from work, happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. And if you are here in the States, happy Labor Day weekend. If you're not here in the States, we celebrate a thing called Labor Day weekend. And that means everybody gets Monday off. Most people get Monday off, and is to celebrate our laborers that have worked very hard for us all summer long out in that heat, toil, and trouble, and all sorts of things. So it's a long weekend for us. So enjoy, everyone. Do enjoy. So I'm kind of backing it up a little bit to our Edgar Casey episode last week. Pardon me, folks. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Sorry, the computer did something odd, but I'm on the right channel, so that's good. um, our Edgar Casey show last week, which we started The Earth Changes, there's this little section at the very beginning where it says that in a reading 5757-1, which I did look up, the context of that reading didn't really apply to what we're doing here. And I believe this afternoon, today, for y'all, I am mostly just going to read. I think I just feel like reading, and I might do a little commentary, but I think the words that I'm going to read, you all can absorb and move around in your mind. Think about it. But I want to bring us back to what we said on Wednesday. And this was from the Edgar Casey. The reading suggests that whenever war, strife, and turmoil occur in the affairs of mankind, sunspots occur as a natural consequence. On one occasion, Casey went so far to state that the phenomenon of sunspots was connected to the instability and turmoil upon the planet itself. In other words, instability among people leads to instability upon the planet and throughout the universe. So take that in for a moment. Take that in. I see that Kim came in. Good to see you, my dear. Have a lovely Friday. Um, take that in, everybody, please. I know that during the Sun series, I had once spoken about how I'm not really afraid of comets. I'm not afraid of comets, to tell you the truth. I'm not. We are constantly, this beautiful planet that we inhabit, we're constantly moving all the time through a bunch of universe cosmic garbage, right? Comets just are everywhere. I mean, we will move with them, around them, through them. I'm not really worried about comets. This is how I want to explain it. But I do know that the sun is way mighty, very, very mighty. And there's a lot of potential that can happen with the sun. And Casey, through a reading from the Akashic, just said that sunspots, sunbursts, what the sun does is in direct connection, correlation, reaction to what us humans are doing down here or here. We're not even down. We're just funneling around and circling around and doing our thing, right? It's in direct correlation. So I don't ever really worry about comets, and I said this a bunch of times. I don't worry about comets. Same as I don't worry about like bullets. It's not bullets that do anything. Like if we were all just standing around in a circle and tossing some bullets back and forth with our hands to each other, they would not harm anything. But let's say they are put into a machine, a mechanism that gives them very fast propulsion. Well, then those bullets are extremely scary. Those bullets can harm big time, right? You all understand this. What do you think the sun can do with a comet? That's what I'm trying to get to. And comets are not reacting to what we're doing, but the sun does. The sun does. So think of what you know of, what they think, quote unquote, happened with the Great Flood, the Ice Age, what have you. They're thinking a bunch of different comets very fast, boom, 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 hit us. What do you think might have caused that? As we also know of the ancient history of what the humans were doing, right? So bring all this into the forefront of your mind, not to dwell on it, not to dwell on it, but think about it as I read. I am going to be reading from an alchemy book. This is it's just an old book, guys. It's a book, the name is just Alchemy. It was published in oh, oh my goodness, 1915. It was published in 1915, and then, there was more publication added in 1959 based a lot on, Carl Jung's stuff. This particular one, this particular all rights reserved for alchemy, the introduction to symbolism and the psychology by, Marie-Louise von Franz. This particular that I'm reading from, and this was the last publication that I know of, was 1980. 1980. So this book is actually older than me. 1980. I'm an 81 baby, if anybody would like to know. A little fun fact, I'm an 81 baby. Okay. So, everything that I just said, from what we read from Edgar Casey, and guys, please stick with Edgar Casey and the Sun series. I will most likely things will be I will probably be referencing both shows oftentimes as we move forward, right? Sometimes something might be said in Edgar Casey that's like, oh, I'll expand upon that in the Sun series, or vice versa, right? Like tonight. So Edgar Casey, in a reading from the Akashic, directly said that the sun reacts and does sunbursts, some spots, all of it directly in relation to what we do here. So let's read some alchemy. All right, beloveds. And this is kind of how this book is written is it's formed in question and answer. It really is, or discussion. Same as how if you read Plato or any of, early mystics, let's say, a lot of things were even Hermes. If you read any of the ancient stuff about from Hermes, a lot of it is in dialogue. This though, beloveds, it's written that way, but it's very detailed. So the remark, we're going to start with the editor's remark, let's say it that way. And then we're going to go into Dr. Von Franz's response, okay? And then another remark and then a response. So, right before this, Dr. von Franz said something alluding to um, people thinking that they have all of the answers from God because of the materials that they have available, right? So that let's say that one particular book, that one particular book that is the bestseller of all time, the Bible, um, people think like, okay, this is the word of God. That means everything's in here. And so that's kind of the discussion they're having. The remark is, I think God has already given his unique answer in each case. Dr. von Franz, that is where we differ. You think God has published general rules which he keeps himself. We think he is a living spirit appearing in man's psyche who can always create something new. So Franz is speaking as for the alchemist, right? For those who study the mystery schools, alchemy, woo woo stuff, what have you. He's saying, well, a lot of the portion of the population thinks that all the rules and regulations and all the dogmas and all the stuff that is the voice and language and you know unique answer to everything is in this one particular book. We think differently, right? We think it's in the psyche of man. So the remark then was within the framework of what he has already published. And yeah, so now, hmm, Dr. Franz, Dr. Franz goes into it, folks. So let's get into it. To a theologian, God is bound to his own books and is incapable of further publications. That is where we lock horns. But let us return to our text. If you rise the conflict to the realm of the psychological inner detachment, then the problem of the opposites becomes clear. The oneness becomes visible in the psychological realm, and you realize your conflict is between two aspects of the psyche. But one unsatisfactory factor remains, for you have cut the moon into two. You have cut the moon into two. Now, yes, this is the sun series, but it's kind of hard to not talk about the moon when we're also talking about the sun. And there are many beloveds. There are so many stories that reference two moons. There's also stories that reference multiple suns, as where we would get like the Trinity from. But when we even think of science and we talk about science, they think Mars, we're missing some moons. Let's say it that way, because I know I've already covered this. That moons have blown up, they've disappeared. They might be some of those chunks of comet that are floating around. So a lot of ancient stories have two moons. Everything above is a representation of within. So he's going to start talking about the psychology of things and how there's a divide. So bear with it. I do want to maybe really emphasize that. All that we look at above is a representation of all that is within. And this is why the sun will start to burst when us humankind are not being so kind. But one unsatisfactory factor remains, for you have cut the moon into two. The feminine element remains divided. A split remains between what we would call the unconscious and what we call the concrete world. That is still an open question. which would mean that in an analysis, you realize the conflict, but still cannot quite link it up to the outer concrete world. As soon as it comes as soon as it comes to the problems in the outer concrete life, there is still uncertainty. Senior gives no advice as to how to proceed from there, but he switches to the outer possibility. The other possibility, excuse me. You must never forget the division into two aspects of the same problem. So I'm going to just read from here on out. And please, beloveds, do what you want with the information. Try to really take it in, though. And then think of what happens within you, around you, and what can occur above that will affect the whole. He exposes it as two because it can only be described by attracting from both sides. And now he tries to attract it from the other side. In one picture, the sun with its two rays attacks the lower world, as does the sun in one ray without justice. The lower world is a secret duality and is a black sphere outside with the white shiny moon inside. The sun in general represents a male principle of collective consciousness, the unknown psychological factor which creates collective consciousness. We see that wherever human brings flock together, a phenomenon of collective consciousness is created. For instance, the words of a language have an average similar meaning to each individual. And through this medium of language, much knowledge is imparted and exchanged. And so a store of collective consciousness is formed. It is very difficult to say what is an individual's own consciousness and how much in it is collective. In earliest childhood, one sees sparks of individual conscious reactions. For instance, in the marvelous sayings of children, and when they ask those wonderful questions, there are children marks makes an effort towards individual consciousness. There are also charming questions. Grandmother, when are you going to die? Right? They're referencing all those beautiful things that come out of the lips of babes, right? That they're striving for their individual consciousness. For then the child speaks quite naively and individually. But when it goes to school, it is confronted with conventional consciousness. Schools have to be like that. And if you speak of a lion or a bear and tell the children to write a little essay on those animals, there will be a maximum of 3 in a class who will say anything individually. As a teacher, I often fought with children, begging them to write what they thought and not what I had told them. And there I saw that children have tremendous difficulty because it is the function of the school and the tendency of the development of those years to grow into collective consciousness. The simulation of collective consciousness is, in fact, the function of the school. And therefore, the originality of individual consciousness generally fades, and at 20 people are a sack of collective knowledge. If you ask their opinion about anything, they just repeat what their parents or their friends or what they have read in the paper, and you have a great difficulty bringing them back to one unique, conscious, personal reaction. So we can say that the sun, S-U-N, so we can say that the sun is the light within which we all swim. It is the light of all of our days. We think we are conscious, but that is not true. We are conscious in the realm of collective, and we do not even know how little our individual consciousness is. It needs quite a search to find even fragments of consciousness that are personal. If you analyze an individual, the sun, S-U-N, is always shining. That is a collective consciousness in which individual consciousness is closed. I'm going to read that again. And I see that seeker came in. Good to see you, my dear. I'm going to read that again. If you analyze an individual, the sun, S-U-N, is always shining. That is a collective consciousness in which individual consciousness is closed. And the conflict is then either against the unconscious or against reality. Two moons. The conflict then is either with our own, what we call subconscious. That's what they mean by when they say unconscious, subconscious. So either we're fighting our subconscious or we're fighting the outer reality. But when we all are asked about the SUN, we'll all say it shines beautifully. People, when they have a conflict, either either are fighting with the outer reality, outside things are wrong and they want them corrected, or they are in trouble with their unconscious, something from within or something from without is in opposition. It is quite rightly said that the enemy with each consciousness is confronted is secretly double. For people come saying they have an outer conflict, but you discover it is the inner one, or vice versa. If there are two suns, S-U-N, if there are two suns, then there are two principles of collective consciousness. In a society, that would mean two forms of relationship to God. For instance, Catholicism and Protestant, right? But beloved listeners, really expand right now, please. If there are two suns, S-U-N, then there are two principles of collective consciousness. In a society, that would mean two forms of relationship to God. The one lives in the light of the one sun, S-U-N, and the other in the light of the other sun, S-U-N. To one group, certain truths are completely self-evident. They are never discussed because to this group, they seem as clear as the sun. And to the other group, the same applies to their own truths. Then already there is a differentiation, a split, or something in opposition within the realm of collective conscious. That would refer in general to a collective conscious conflict of some kind, two isms, two isms or two collective attitudes clash, but both are collective. For the conflict is common to many in the same form. In the text, conflicting attitudes are characterized as one sun, which directs two rays towards the opposite. The dark thing, the one sun which directs one ray, and it is said that the one ray is the sun without justice. What principle of collective consciousness is without justice towards the world below, while the other sun is just? What would that mean? So, beloveds, I do want to know there are images out there about this topic. Um, Not in this book, though, so I'm not going to be able to pull it up to you live. So, we could think about two suns, possibly, perhaps. We could, but if we wanna just imagine one beautiful sun, but then 2 rays shining down. This is oftentimes where we get symbols like keyholes or oh gosh, guys, this goes into a lot of things. So, like 2 rays coming down, right? We've seen this imagery before in other areas. One is kinda shooting down to what is called the world below. We're about to read about it. That is still our world, right? And then the other one is shooting in. One is the unjust, the darker of the sun, the unjust, and then one is the just. So, how would that look? Clearly, there are two possibilities of consciousness, namely a rigid one and one which is paradoxically attitude and therefore does just to the paradoxical factor of the unconsciousness of the subconscious. The later would be what you would call a consciously open system, an open system which is always ready to accept the opposite or meet the opposite and accept its conditions. If you have a conscious attitude which is ready to accept the opposite, to accept the conflict and the contradictions, then you can connect with the unconscious, subconscious. So, beloveds, the definition that this alchemist is giving for just would be would would be if you have a conscious attitude which is ready to accept the opposite, to accept the conflict and contradiction. That's their definition of just. That beautiful ray of the sun coming down, just. And if let's imagine that there's 2 suns, sun. What do you think those 2 suns would represent? Maybe a sun for the world that is unjust and a sun for the world that is just. And I want to humbly say right now, to have a conscious attitude which is ready to accept the opposite, to accept conflict and contradiction, does not mean that you agree. Acceptance has never said agree. Acceptance has never said compliance. We don't need to accept that, yep, this is here. You're the opposite. You're the opposition. You're this, you're that. There's contradictions, there's conflicts. To accept and be open to, yep, that exists. There you are. I see you. I see you. Does not mean that you agree with it. It doesn't even mean that you're going to conform to it. It just means that you're open enough to acknowledge that it's there. That is the term of just, and not to deny or fight what's going on. Then you can connect with the subconscious. That is what we try to achieve. They're referring to the alchemist. That is what we try to achieve. We try to bring about a conscious attitude with which a person can keep the door to the unconscious open, which means that one must never be too sure of oneself. Never be sure that what one says is the only possibility. Never be too sure about a decision. One should always have an eye and an ear open towards the opposite, the other thing. And that does not mean to be spineless. It does not mean just to sit there, right? It means to act accordingly to one's conscious conviction, but still always having the humility to keep the door open and be proven wrong. That would be an attitude of the consciousness in living connection with the other, dark side. The unjust son, so now we're talking about the other son, that other ray, that other son, the unjust one. The unjust son, sun, is that attitude of consciousness which knows exactly what is what. A rigid attitude that blocks contact with the unconscious. While the two-rayed sun is the molding and formative effect upon the unconscious. The latter would be with just, and the former without. I think that is highly meaningful. Before I continue, really take that in. So, before, there might have been two suns. So, there was maybe different worlds receiving, right? We are doing one sun, because if you looked up right now, all of us in our collective consciousness would say, wow, that sun is shining. That sun is shines so bright. That's beautiful. All of us would say that, right? Well, y'all get what I mean. There's some personalities out there that are like, ah, the sun. We love them. One sun, two rays. One is just, and it's open mindedness. It's accepting that, oh, yeah, all this exists. Yep. I'm going to be in my conviction. I'm going to do me. I'm going to do my life. I'm going to do what I need to do. But I see you. I see what's going on. Okay. Okay. The other one, unjust, rigid, closed off. I'm right. You're wrong. We're right. They're wrong. There's only one solution, right? When we do that, when we're rigid and closed off, then we are very much disconnected from the subconscious. Now, it just stated that the sun, sun, is over both the conscious and the subconscious. And when we're in a just ray of light, we can have more communication with the sun, that is the representation of the Godhead. Isn't that fabulous? That is fabulous. Please go back to when I brought up what Edgar Casey said, that the sun reacts, sunspots, sunbursts, what have you. The sun will always react to what humankind is doing. Okay, moving down for a moment. Okay. A conscious attitude connected with the religious attitude is what is required. Always to give humble and careful consideration to the unknown factor. That is to say, and this is in quotes, I think this is the right thing to do. And then watch for a sign warning that one is not allowing for everything. Meaning, what we would in today's world called all the synchronicities. Watch the synchronicities. If you're making a decision and you have some kind of faith, some kind of humble approach to some kind of being, right? Some kind of faith, then watch the synchronicities. Either they're going to tell you this is not the way to go, or they're going to say, right on, you're doing such a great job. Consciousness is essential to the unconscious, for without it, the unconscious cannot live. But consciousness is only a good channel of communication through which the unconscious can flow if it has a double paradoxical attitude. Then the unconscious can manifest, and the hardening of the conscious attitude against the unconscious, which means a split in the personality and in civilization, can be avoided. So, in order to have a subconscious, you must have a conscious. We get that. We get that. But consciousness is only a good channel of communication through which the subconscious can flow if it has a double paradoxical attitude, meaning, can it see all things? Is it still open? Is the consciousness open enough so the subconscious can do its thing? So the subconscious can weed out for that individual what it needs, right? It's removing all the subliminal messages. It's doing this, it's doing that, it's making some decisions. Awesome. Then the subconscious can manifest, can demonstrate. Those two words mean the same thing. Let's say it could be more represented in someone's life. And the hardening of the conscious attitude against the unconscious, which will can be avoided, right? Which means the split in the personality and in civilization can be avoided. So when humans connect more to their subconscious mind through the communication of the conscious mind, this is why we need to watch what we're witnessing, as in all the AI stuff, all the news stuff, all the media stuff, all the interactions with people, all the fear-based stuff. That is actually going into your conscious mind, that is communicating it to the subconscious mind. When the subconscious mind is like, "Man, I really would love to manifest. I would really love to start demonstrating the power that I have, the greatness that I have, but I gotta connect with you more, conscious, and you seem to be becoming more rigid and hard and very, one-streamed focus. I, don't know what to do," right? And that can be in an individual and an entire civilization. There is a secret duality in the objective. At a rough guess, we can say that the dark world underneath is the unconscious because it is the unknown. It is that which cannot penetrate with my mind and say I know what it is. The unconscious, subconscious folks, is a concept which simply refers to that which is not clear to the conscious. That includes the whole gamut of things. There are two aspects. There are two aspects, two ultimate unknowns, with each and with with which an alchemist would specifically deal, and of which I spoke in the introduction. We are still faced with two unsolved mysteries, which in a strange way are in interdependent, though we do not know them of yet, or the how. They are psyche and matter. So this is written in 1980. Beloveds, I'm going to tell you right now, I sent a new video to the patrons of Stars of Morning Light. They are fixing to learn how psyche and matter are not two separate things. They've been learning it, but this last class, and I will release that class to everyone here on YouTube and on Patreon at different intervals, somewhere in the month of September. So the alchemist here is saying this is the thing that we still don't understand. Like the psyche and matter. How are those things interlinked? Well, we know a lot more now. The science of physics, in the final resort, postulates matter as something unconscious, namely something of which we cannot become conscious. By definition, the unconscious is the same thing. It is something psychological of which we cannot become conscious, and we never know how our descriptions of the unconscious are combined with matter, which creates the whole conflict between the inner and the outer. In the final analysis, it is consciousness that makes the conflict between the inner and the outer by projecting the one as materially real and the other as psychologically real, because we do not really know the difference between material reality and the psyche. Actually, if we look at it honestly, we are confronted with something unknown which appears sometimes as matter and sometimes as psyche. And how the two are linked, we do not know as of yet. The alchemist did not know, and we do not know either. It is a life mystery which seems to manifest both psychologically and material. Jeez. If we describe it from the outside with an extroverted statistical approach, it appears as matter. And if we approach it from within, it appears as what we like to call the subconscious. So, that is this kind of long description of as within, so without. That our psychological, what is happening in our psyche, our subconscious, our consciousness, there's a division there. So if there's a division there, there's going to be a division out. There's going to be a division out in the world. So they actually gave a very nice, simple beginner solution to this, as in, okay, you beautiful sun, you sun, you lovely star, why don't we open our mind, be open minded, let's not be rigid, let's listen to all things, let's accept all things, let's accept that this is a thing, this is happening, this is going on, they said those words, they did this. Oh, them over there, they're doing that. Okay, we're accepting. That does not mean we agree. That does not mean we conform. That does not mean we just lay back and just take it. Acceptance is not avoiding. And when we don't avoid that, right, then we can actually avoid the division within the civilization. When we are open minded, then it can open up more filters of what we would call expansion in our consciousness, which then can open some of the gateway to connecting the conscious and the subconscious, the unconscious, as they always used to say. And when we can start gelling those two together, right? When we can start gelling those two together, well, then that ripples out into the outer. The conscious, the subconscious, and the outer, they're all of the same energy. All of the same energy. So if we are divided within conscious and subconscious, there's a division. Then we are going to continue to witness that in the outer. And if we continue to witness that in the outer, well, then we're going to continue to have these different sun rays that are also in direct correlation with what we're doing. The just ray and the unjust ray. And I believe that we all learned in Ghostbusters what happens when the rays cross. Come on, now y'all gotta laugh. That one was good. That one was good. I did say at the beginning I was born in 1981. That one was good. So, beloveds, think about this though. Like over the weekend, right? Because you might, because at least here in the States, if you're not working, enjoy, enjoy. If you are working, bless you. Thank you for helping serve. So take this weekend though to kind of go, wait a minute. All I really have to do is remain a bit open minded and accept, not accept as in I'm cool with that, accept as in, okay, you do you. Okay, that's happening over there. And then every time you see something, witness something, go, okay, that's happening. It does not need to cause a great deal of even more conflict within. This is it's one of the first stages of learning how to detach, truly detach. Detach from, as I did a post just a few days ago, detach from the illusion of the illusion of the illusion. I was with my beloved teacher Tuesday night and she told everybody, "Oh my goodness, we are in such grips of the illusion of the illusion of the illusion." And it's really because our subconscious is not connected to the consciousness that helps us navigate and understand what the hell the illusion really is. Because the subconscious knows, the conscious doesn't. So we got to start linking it up very easily. Open minded. No, you're not always right. No, you're not. Neither am I. Ain't nobody right. Ain't nobody wrong. It just is. Right? Be open. And hopefully, if we can start doing more of this process and the patrons of Stars of the Morning Light, which is only $5, folks, we are definitely a community that's learning and growing together, and we're going to be starting to be together even more so in the future. Join us because they're learning how to do this in a the psyche is going to now be the material. That I mean, it's not just, ooh, they're really going to learn. It's not just, oh, let's manifest in this form and that form and, our vision boards. They are learning the psyche of humankind is the material because of the illusion of the illusion of the illusion. And if we're in the system, well, then we need to learn how to use all that, how to break free from all that. But it does take being open so we can start connecting to our subconscious. See, it's when we fight in ourselves the conscious and the subconscious, and we fight what we see, and we fight the billboards, and we fight the media, and we fight with fear and with anger, and there's all this turmoil within and of course without. Beloveds, that is what just continues the separation. It's just outward and inward. So that's why they're saying be open, just accept. Yep, that's that over there. That's this over there. That's that in me. Whew, okay. That's this, that's that. Okay. Because then it doesn't infiltrate. More can flow freely and be free, hence opening the gates to the subconscious that connects you then to the grand consciousness, which within that, you are the illusion and you fully understand it. So therefore, you fully create in it, right? Shelly just saw, don't cross the streams. Well, I love you, beloveds. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. If anything, you know what helps being more open is having more fun. Have more fun. Like you have permission. Go have fun. You have permission. Whatever that fun may be, if you don't know what your fun is, go find something. Maybe it's not the best fun, but it's some fun. And maybe you're trying some new stuff out. Go have fun. You got to get some fun, right? You got to get some fun. Everybody does, because in that fun is the release. Let go. Ooh, we're all open. Yes, I feel it. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Go swimming. Yes, Kim, go swimming. I love it. Yes. Yes. So that's what we all need to do. Have fun. I'm going to barbecue. I'm going to turn on some music. I'm going to have me a good old time. Y'all, I'm going to, for the first time, because it's been a real hot summer, I'm going to smoke some ribs. And I mean like that long 6, 7, 8 hours of just I get to just that's the one thing I have to focus on. That to me is a whole lot of fun. So, Kim, go swimming, beloved. Shelly, you and Neil have a lot of fun. Everybody out there, have a lot of fun. Enjoy yourself. Do what you can when you can, and don't worry about which way it flows. I love you, stars. Have a great time. Bye, guys.